good to go?
It is 6 p.m. on Monday, September 16. And this is the Oconee County Planning Commission. I'd like to bring this meeting to order. To start off, I'd like to do the invocation. Mr. Nix, would you lead us in that?
Yes, sir. Pray with me if you would. Heavenly Father, we ask that you please watch over this committee and the planning staff and guide us to wise and safety-conscious decisions in support of the public. We also ask that you watch over the county law enforcement, first responders, and other county workers as they perform their duties. They may return home safely to their families after every shift. And we ask that you please watch over the county and state leaders as they work to make the county and state a better place to live each day. In his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have the meetings minutes from September 5th. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Are there any changes that need to be made? If not, all those in favor?
I got Gary Gallin on this one, I'm sorry. Hopefully we're gonna,
Okay,
sorry about that. Are you
no
there?
worries.
All right, I'm gonna walk you up.
Okay, thanks.
Set it right there, that'd be great. All right, if there's no more discussion or changes regarding the minutes, all those in favor of approving those minutes say aye.
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 Thank you, Mr. Cullen. That was unanimous. All right, so now we have public comments for non-agenda items. We have one individual on that list, Mr. Perry Smith. You know the drill, we have 4 minutes, and since there's so many in line behind you, that,
Hello, Commission. For the record, I am Perry Smith. Why do free Americans choose not to live in an HOA? We choose to live free without the hassle of overbearing neighbors being a nuisance because we have a couple of things out of place. Why do free Americans choose to live in an HOA? They need direction and security. They want to be told what to do and how to do it. I do not need that in my life, as I have chosen to stay away from the nasty thing called an HOA. You are what I consider a true conservative planning commission. Gave the AQD HOA the chance to expand from their gilded gates to the countryside by giving in to their desire for lot size codes. Even though many lot sizes in their own communities break the very rules they requested. They want this control outside their AQD HOA gilded gates reach. You help them get that foot in the door, and I do not appreciate it. What will happen when the AQD HOAs come after the chicken farmers? Will they finally shut you down? Who will the chicken farmers turn to when a chicken farmer voted to give the AQD HOA that foot in the door outside their gilded gates? I have said, when you give a little, they will be back for more. What will you do when that happens? It's actually happened again just right after this. It does not matter how little or how insignificant the decision was, that was the start, and it happened on all your watches. I hold you all responsible for such an overreach on personal property rights. Those of you that voted to keep Oconee beautiful to take over Highway 130 potentially was giving more control to government and AQD. I said it, that if you give them something once, they're gonna be back for more. That was the second. That's one right after the other. This is only about control. If they wanted to make that road pretty, trash pickup, adopt a highway, heck, you could get 4 pickups a year instead of 3 because of Keep Oconee Beautiful. I mean, they could have got one more time just by putting it in adopt a highway. But I tried to say that if y'all keep giving in, they're gonna keep coming back for more. Time 2 has already happened. We need to be ready for the next. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. All right, we have commission member comments. Do we have any commissioner member comments? Nobody up here? Mr. Garland, do you have anything?
No.
Okay.
I'll split something out.
All right.
This is just for information. In District 4, last week, they tore down one of the oldest houses in the county. It was the Horseshoe Robinson place. Perry probably knows where it's at, on Horseshoe Bridge Road. He was a Revolutionary War soldier, Battle of Kings Mountain, Moultrie, several different places. And it's just a shame that it was historical significance and we slipped through the cracks and didn't try to preserve it.
Are there any other commission member comments? All right, James, I want to get staff comments from you then.
So, don't have anything for you guys tonight. We will have another subdivision application for your next meeting.
All right. Item 8, so I'm hoping that this will be a fairly short meeting regarding the discussion of the 2025 update of the comprehensive plan. I ask that this be placed on the agenda, one, because it's state law that a comprehensive plan is done every 10 years and that the plan is reviewed and updated every 5 years. Relating this meeting to a track meet, this meeting is not intended to be the starting gun going off. This meeting is really just an announcement of the next race to begin and a call for the runners to come to the track. I say that we've had a lot of changes in the county since 2019, and this meeting is a notice to the public that we are in the process of updating those county goals and objectives. Interestingly, as I was going through this, I read the very first page of the comprehensive plan, the last one, and it said 12 months, 49 meetings, 500 attendees, 600 written comments, and 1,100 surveys. For those that have been up here and taken part of that endeavor, it was an impressive undertaking. We had numerous focus groups and stakeholder forums scattered throughout the county, 29 in all, with an additional 20 planning commission meetings dedicated to the process. The public spoke and the county took note. I'm going to say that one more time because I found it interesting that the public spoke and the county took note. I say it that way because the low attendance that we have in the meeting tonight, it's interesting when we do see big attendance, it's when something directly affects someone's, personal yard or their view or their convenience of their drive or something like that. But just looking back and remembering back to some of our more outspoken meetings this year, I wanted to review a few things that I saw as I was reviewing these as county goals for Oconee County planning in the comprehensive plan. 1, encourage housing development that will allow residents to age in place, such as higher density and multifamily housing. Encourage and promote development of housing options that afford low and middle income families. Encourage development within defined opportunity zones featuring mixed use and affordable housing elements. Review and amend land use development regulations to provide for safe, decent, affordable housing. Continue to develop the I-85 industrial corridor with associated infrastructure. Work with neighboring jurisdictions when possible to establish regional efforts to expand sewer service into prime commercial and industrial areas. Work with the Joint Regional Sewer Authority to coordinate efforts to provide sewer through the high-growth corridors. Establish state and federal partnerships to seek and secure funding for wastewater treatment facility upgrades and expansions. Update existing land use regulations to facilitate development that preserve forest and prime agriculture land. Explore ways to incorporate procedures and guidelines that will protect natural resources from incompatible use without unduly restricting growth and development. I remind everyone that this book, this comprehensive plan, is a book of citizen-initiated objectives. And as we continue to move forward, while much of what we're doing here tonight and going forward with the end of the year is just kind of updating and listening and making sure we're staying on track, I'd like to also suggest that if we are trying to change some objectives at a county level, that we really need to hear those here. So that's all I had to say with regard. Yes, sir.
Comprehensive plan. I've had a lot of arguments on social media about what the comprehensive plan really is and what's in it, what the objectives are, who they're targeted to, what they're targeted to. And I just want to say this, and that is, if anybody chooses to weaponize these, they can, but be aware that the ones you pick may not be the ones that other people pick. There's actually many conflicting objectives in this comprehensive plan. There's some that demographic A wants that maybe demographic B don't. And they're in direct conflict with each other. That's like there's stuff on affordable housing, and then there's stuff on limiting development, zoning, and whatnot that conflicts with affordable housing. So, and that's the case for many of these things. And I just wanted to say that it's like a Sears Roebuck catalog. It's a wish list. Everything in here is a wish list, and it comes from all different political spectrums, all different demographic spectrums. And it's everything that everybody could think of that would make this county better. And so one of the things that we do, that the county should be doing, the citizens should be doing, is it's imperative that they participate in the political process, because the elections determine what we prioritize in this plan. I mean, that's the bottom line. Elections determine what we pick as most important out of this and work with. We try to do everything that we can, but it's like anything else in life. You can't have everything because you can't afford everything. So we prioritize, and that's all I'll say.
Anyone else like to have any kind of opening comment on this? James, what I'd like to do is ask you to go over what is our requirement as the Planning Commission to accomplish the state objectives and requirements as fulfilling that 2025 obligation. And is it due in January 2025? Is it that we compile stuff so that in 2025 it's to be then put together? Can you go through the outline of what we're going to need to be doing?
Yeah, so by the end of 2025, we need to have something to council that they can look at and approve. You look at the comprehensive plan you have in front of you, that's got the adopted date by council on it. Basically, that's starting the clock. what we've done so far is we've sent each of the chapters in there to the respective departments that have a lot of the areas. So for them to start looking at and reviewing, updating numbers, updating goals, looking at those goals, seeing if that stuff is either still relevant for the 2025 through the end of the plan. So, economic development has gotten chapter 4, and Parks and Recreation has gotten 5, 6, and 7. We sent the entire Agriculture Advisory Board, chapter 8, the agriculture chapter for them to look at. And we will take those comments and red lines from everybody, and we'll start adopting those into kind of some new documents and revisions to those documents. We're also meeting with the COG this week to start talking about anything they can do to kind of assist us with getting the bigger parts of that plan put together. So we're formulating kind of that footprint right now.
As the state requirement, and you're saying ACOG helping out, the state doesn't require us to redraft all the language in here. They're simply looking for, did we check the boxes of what we said we would do?
The obligation is to kind of look at everything that's in there, see what's still relevant, see if everything is still looking at what you're doing going forward. And if there are things in there that you're no longer interested in doing, we need to take those out, right? So we need to update and make some of those modifications, revisions, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I actually don't think you should take stuff out because, as I said before, and as I believe, and I could be wrong, but I think it is a Sears Roebuck wish list. It is comprehensive. It's got things in it that we may not want to focus on right now, that we may want to move out, but I don't think that we should necessarily remove anything from it because it might be something that's not important to us now that at some point down the road, it becomes important. It becomes a priority. And if you strike it out as an objective, then it.
Let me ask you
Not
this,
there anymore.
would we come up with a word instead of saying ongoing or completed that says paused, put on hold, discontinued? Something of that nature to show that we're not actually
2029.
ongoing it?
2029, or something like that. Put a year on it.
Just future. We'll come up with something.
So some sort of word there. So you were saying take something out. Does that also mean add things in? Should we be,
So we need to update, like if you start looking through population, housing, economics, all of these have tables that are pretty well outdated. We need to pull in the most recently available information and update all of those tables. So there's a lot of that, just data collection. 2020 census has come out since this was published. So we'll update, lots and lots of those figures, and we can go through, housing that we know is here, building permits that have been pulled, addresses that have been assigned. We have all that data for the last 4 years that is true, right? So we want to put the accurate information in.
and so that'll be what staff is working on for the remainder of the year.
Well, that's a significant lift, yeah, so we have a lot of.
Is there a timeline next year then, at which point we need to have everything in and in our hands to approve or whatever we need to do to say, yes, our stamp of approval goes to council?
Yeah, we need to work together and kind of figure out a good timeline for everybody that's gonna work with the commission and with staff and with anything else that we need to do to get it there. So we're gonna start working on that.
Can you start keeping us apprised, one, of just how staff is going, if there's any areas that don't seem to come about? I don't want this to sneak up on the planning commission next year at some point. At the same time, like I said, tonight, I wanted this to be on an agenda simply to say, we're not necessarily going out into the communities like we did when we originally set this up, but we are inviting the communities to come talk to us during their non-agenda item opportunity to speak of anything, impressions that they might have from an input standpoint as we move this document forward. Are there other comments by people from this point?
Mike,
Yes, sir.
what's the current population of the county?
We think somewhere around 86.
86?
Anything else from anyone regarding this? Again, today is just a fireworks of, hey, we're going to be starting to nail this down. And over the remainder of the year, have people make comments as they see fit. If there's nothing else, is there?
Yeah, I got another question. So I read through these goals and objectives because it looked like we put on the agenda, all the ongoing,
I included what
Annual-
was due for this year, so this is basically everything that's in the 2024. So this is just the ongoing and annual for every year, but what is due this year as well. Kind of looking at for the remainder of the year.
so looking at the columns for the goals, objectives, and strategies, we've got time frame for evaluation. Some of these are 2023, 2021, and there's no date completed. Is it really? I mean, what do we do with those?
So all of the ones that have passed, that's what you guys have done annually, is kind of gone through and checked off and added specific dates to those. For anything that's left, staff has filled those in, so those are already done for years past.
So what happens if they're still important and we need to revisit them?
So if it is a date that has come and gone, you can add it back in, you could change it from 2023 to ongoing or annual.
So you guys have a filled-in version of this, where this column is filled in?
We have the ones from the meeting minutes from previous years, yeah, so we have.
It's just hard to figure out what to do with this thing. I mean, honestly.
I agree.
I don't see anything down here like in years past where we had 2022 and then we signed off at the end of the year saying we
Right.
completed
So I've
those.
taken everything out that is not for 2024 specifically. There are 0 goals tied to the plan that are 2024 specific. So this is what is left after you take out everything that is not tied to a specific year.
But I do agree that probably the biggest thing to update is all the stuff in the text that's out of date since, what, 2020,
So 2020, when it was
when it was
completed,
written?
we didn't have any of that information, so some of those are pretty old.
Yeah.
You know, the last agricultural census was, probably 12 years. So, I mean, a lot of those numbers have changed as well. So we have a lot of lifting to do to get all those up to date.
Do you have a target next year of what month you're hoping to have that information together?
Not yet. We're just starting to look at
I
it.
don't see any numbers or anything, I get
Okay.
generalities.
Right. That's why it's so hard to work with. There's no specifics.
Yeah, in some of the previous years, there were dates of years of completion, and so we could determine if we had met those objectives that were objectives. As far as the annual and ongoing, it is a review to make sure that we are doing those things if we're going to be doing those things. It was not my plan necessarily to go through each of those. It was more my plan tonight to start kind of setting up a parameter of, or a field of what we're going to try to draw in as we move forward.
Right, and I absolutely agree. My struggle is, and I agree, we don't have the ability to go through specifics on the goals and objectives. I mean, I know Teresa went, when we were doing these, and she would provide us with some details about how we were meeting them, but as far as going through these, I don't think it's just a struggle for me to figure out we've got stuff that's dated 2023, like Strategy 211, monitor demographic patterns in the county and its municipalities in order to respond to growth and the changing needs of residents, especially special populations. Heck, we're doing that now. We're always gonna be doing that. A lot of these that have got dates in them are ongoing. In fact, probably most all of them are ongoing. I guess my question is, what does that date really mean as far as time frame for evaluation? I don't like the two columns. I like the strategies. I think they're all encompassing. Some of them, like I say, some of them we care about right now, some of them we don't necessarily care about. That's our priorities, but they're all important at some point in the lifetime of the county, more or less. But I don't, it's like and the accountable agencies, that's great. I mean, that's something we need. I mean, that shows who we work with primarily to achieve those goals. But as far as a time frame for evaluation and date completed, that just means almost absolutely nothing. It's almost like we need a priority list versus, and these two columns do not achieve a priority list. It's just not a regimented process. And I struggle with that because of my background. Seems like there'd be some better way to put this together. I just don't know what it is, right? I'm trying to think about what better way we could.
When this was put together in 19 and 20, this diagram, I'm assuming, was following how other counties are done?
Oh, yeah, it's a pretty typical layout.
Pretty typical layout?
This started, what, in 2010?
So the counties had comprehensive plan at least in 1990, 2000, 2010, and 2020. That's as far back as I could find.
And y'all forgive me, I'm just fostering debate about the generalities of the goals and objectives.
Absolutely.
If y'all have got ideas, boy, throw them out there. It seems like,
I agree with you, Dave. We need to first prioritize and then go under each strategy and come up with, brainstorm, come up with ideas of how we can meet that strategy. It looks like in the past was more of searching, okay, are we complying? How are we complying? Okay, we're doing this. Instead of building forward and saying, okay, we can meet this strategy by implementing this or doing this, or
to me, you almost ought to have a column that says importance, and it's 1 to 5. If it's highly important, it's a 1. If it's of low importance, it's a 5. And we go through and we decide what's 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s, and then we argue over it, and then, depending on the layout of the planning commission, it's, that's who's gonna win the argument, I guess. I mean, me and Teresa probably disagree on a few things, me and Gary probably disagree on a few things, and they might have 5s in one place, I might have 5s in the other, but at least we're arguing about it and trying to decide what our direction is.
yeah, I'd agree with prioritizing it and discussing it and voting on it. That seems like a logical way to approach it. That way we're working on something that the majority of the group agrees on.
I think more important than just the majority of the group, this is our 10-year plan. And we're coming up on year 5 of that 10-year plan. And I think that while we are having these discussions, that this is a prime opportunity for citizens who care to get involved, look through these things, and voice what they feel like are priorities here as we're putting these together through the end of the year.
And these priorities are even different depending on what district you're in, county council district. I mean,
That's very true.
very different, so. District 1 and District 3 are a lot different than District 2, 4, and 5 on a lot of respects, especially for this.
So this is your cry to the public to say, show up, let us know.
This is a conversation of the public that we are saying, this is going to be something we're going to be trying to work through towards the end of the year, so that in 2025, we're able to start handing over some ideas of what the next one needs to look like, as far as priorities are concerned, not going into 2025, but as we hand this over to council at the end of 2025. But now is when we need to be starting to have those discussions so that we can start outlining those priorities. So, again, tonight was just hey, the track meet's about to start.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to have the staff take a look at process and at our next meeting, or maybe 2 meetings from now, allow us to see some kind of written form of what could then the process be. And then we could either conform to what they're recommending, or we could debate how it might be improved. But like some of you, I would feel a little angst about just starting to have a meeting to talk about all this without some agreed upon process. So my motion is to have the staff at 1 or 2 meetings from now to present a written process of how we would attack, or, start to, as some people say, how are we going to eat this elephant?
I'll second that for discussion. In that, I would rather give them time longer rather than shorter to do that. Again, this isn't a hurry-up process. This is a announcement, but it would be helpful for staff to give their input.
I'm agreeable to whatever time frame is recommended by the staff.
It would be y'all's project. Is there we're just looking for how this next step would be best organized.
Yeah, let's go sometime in October, how about that?
Okay, sometime in October. Mr. Gollin, is that what your motion would contain?
Yes.
That's a motion on the floor. All those in favor of asking staff to, is there more discussion?
Yeah. I don't think staff knows what we're gonna ask them to do. I mean, they don't have any idea what, they're gonna have to make up stuff unless we sit here and help figure it out. I mean, that's what our job is to figure out, give them a vision of what to do. We're not doing that right now. We're saying go figure out what to do and then come back, and if we don't like it,
Figure it out
we'll
again.
figure it out again. I mean, let's tell them specifically what we're looking for.
Okay. Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I just want to say that, our staff is professional staff. They know what I mean when I say we'd like to see what the process would be. It would be, some agreed upon rules as to how to go about reviewing and approving, changing, whatever it might be. And then we would, at least before we get started in this, have an agreed upon way to go through and do the work. It's just like you said something about having a track meet. Well, if you get everybody there and you don't tell them where they're going to start, and you don't tell them where they're going to finish, how they going to know? So that's what I'm asking for, is some written information from staff, and I think James could easily provide this. And I don't think there's any reason for concern unless he comes back to us and says he wasn't able to do that.
Prior to my real estate career, I was in business, and one of my jobs was to do business plan models, which involved a lot of exactly what we're seeing here. The difference is when we would turn that over as a business plan model, that time frame had an exact date on it, and if that goal was not accomplished by that date, then somebody was responsible and accountable. A lot of what we have, at least what we're seeing in 2024, are ongoing and annually, as opposed to something that has a hard, fast date to it. This year is somewhat unique in that, because in the past years, we have had hard, fast dates, and we determined, did we accomplish that? Yes. And if there was something that carried over, we carried that over. Here, everything seems to be an ongoing or annually, so perhaps it could be where James is coming to us, or we are doing our homework and saying, these are the things that we would determine that annually has been accomplished.
Here's what I think we ought to do.
Okay?
If we want to put if we actually want a time frame for evaluation, we shouldn't have ongoing general objectives. What I think we should do is, under each of these strategies, we ought to have bullets. And that bullet, let's take an example. I don't know. Where's the one about cultural centers?
Number 5,
Chapter 5,
cultural resources.
there's one in here about, yeah, let's see. Now, if you look at strategy 5124, explore the purchase and adaptive reuse of the Utica Mill site. Did we already do that one? We already did that one, but that was specific.
Like 1, 2, 4.
You got that.
don't have that.
5124.
Don't
He's
have
got
that one.
the entire plan, he's looking at
Oh.
it, so.
You got the
I
entire
kept
plan?
wondering when he was
Okay.
talking.
Yeah, well,
He cheated.
hold on.
I'll pull it up.
He brought the whole thing.
Sorry.
We have.
We've-
Let me find one that everybody has. I'll find it on
Dave, look at 5215.
We've narrowed down.
5215. Okay, yeah, that's a good one. All right. Promote opportunities for volunteerism and sponsorships of tourism, cultural, and recreational offerings. So what specific activity in this county do we have in progress right now under that strategy?
Or what are we gonna put in progress?
And if we have a specific item in progress, an initiative in progress, a specific one, put it as a bullet under here, and then we can have a time frame for evaluation on that bullet. But as far as the ongoing strategies, it doesn't make any sense to have time frame for evaluation on general strategies like that. It needs to be a specific activity under that strategy. And I think under these goals and objectives and strategies, I think we need to expand this table, and we need to put specific bullets for each activity we have in the county that the county has some kind of say in under those strategies. And then we can put a time frame for evaluation or completion. And that column, those two last columns would make sense.
So Dave,
So-
I'm
So
sorry.
like the cultural center in downtown Seneca, I know we don't have a whole lot to say over that, but, we got $12 million coming into the city of Seneca to go build that, and are they working on it now, right? So what's our goal for that to be completed? Is that something the county's interested in? I mean, that's under this. I mean, this thing includes municipalities in the county, so I think that's what we ought to do with this to make it more effective. And I also think we ought to have a column for the general strategies, and it ought to have priority 1 through 5 in it. And we ought to agree on those priorities to some degree. We ought to at least have us surveyed, each of us fill out what we think the priorities are. The planning commission collects that, or the planning staff collects that, and then they set the priorities based on the collective feedback of the commission, based on a survey. We go fill it out. I mean, that's specific stuff we can give them to go do that makes sense.
The only objection to something like that is some of these actually don't really come from us. They were important to the community at large, the
That's
county at large, but that they are responsibilities of a municipality, for example, to do. So we wouldn't want to put a bullet point strategy for something that we can't touch. It's the municipality that's actually going to touch it.
And I'm good with that, but anything the county has some kind of sway over, I mean, if they're dipping in the county funds to help them finance it, then it should be in here.
Perhaps what we should do then, to refine what Mr. Gullum was saying and what you were saying, is perhaps have staff identify by highlighting the box that are areas where we directly have a hand in, as opposed to a municipality or to the museum, or it's important to the sewer authority, or whether it's important to somebody else and we don't touch it,
I mean, there's
compared to ones that we actually have a say in and a touch to.
There's a whole lot of specific ones on sewer and water and utilities right now that we do have some sway over. And I think,
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I just want to let you know, I'm listening to what Dave has to say and respect his opinion and everything, but, he is actually getting into what I was recommending is that we come up with a process. My understanding is that we use professional staff members to give us what they feel the process should be, then we review it, and if we wanted to change it, then that would be okay. But David is actually getting into asking for changes in process, and my motion is for staff to give us a process that we can then look at and debate.
As far as their recommended way to get through this document.
That's correct. And what is the recommendation on going through this process? And they would maybe have a number one with 2 or 3 things underneath number one, and number 2 with, you know, so in other words, this is how we're gonna run this track meet. You know, we're gonna give awards to the person that comes in first, second, and third. You know, that, you know, we're gonna time it. We're gonna, you know, the person with the lowest amount of time spent in this event is the winner. You see what I'm saying? That's the process. Y'all are already getting into discussion on the process, but what I'm saying is a good starting point is to have professional staff give us a recommendation on what the process should be, and then we can either agree or disagree and debate that.
My only additional input to this would be that rather than us sitting here and saying, I put this as a number 1 priority and this is a number 5 priority, is that over the next X amount of time, that in our non-agenda items, that's where the public also provides their input to say, this is a number 1 priority for me and I'm in District 3 or 2 or 1 or whatever it might be, so that we can determine what those needs might be in those specific districts as we come and start outlining what we think is number 1 and number 5. So that's kind of tonight where I wanted to start that ball rolling.
But again, that is part of the process. So that's your recommendation. It might be different than Mr. David's process recommendation. All I'm saying is it might be good to get the staff to get us started on what a good process would be. Maybe, you know, even doing a little research into what other people in the state are doing, you know, those.
Mr. Adams?
I don't want this to become a distraction. I think we have some more important things to do than this. Like they said, this is a wish list, right? I think we have other things that we need to be tackling that are more important than filling this out. That's just my opinion.
Okay. Again, my reason for bringing it up tonight is to get the public to start getting engaged in this document and start during non-agenda item times, start speaking their mind, since when we developed this document originally, it was based on us going out in the field and having town hall type forums and things like that. And since we're not going to be doing that for an update, we're inviting folks to come in and start looking at this. So,
Mr. Chair, just want to remind you, there is a motion on the floor, and I was wondering if you feel comfortable calling the question.
so the question is that you want staff to come up with their best opinion as to how we dissect this, both at our county and what you've seen done in the past, as far as getting us through this to both meet our state requirement and help the community at large, help us focus for the next 4 years. Is that a correct way to dissect what you were asking them to do? Is to come up with a plan of how we dissect this?
I thought that was an excellent explanation, but I was much narrower in the focus of that. And so my motion was to ask staff to give us a written process on how we go about, you know, doing the work we're required to do with the comprehensive plan.
All right, motion's on the floor. All those in favor of asking staff to come in some point in October and just say, how do we do this, and give us direction? All those in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion carries.
When opposed, motion carries. James, we appreciate you working on that, giving us some direction and guidance there. We do want to stay within what's required of the state. We want to give the community at large an opportunity to speak since the world has changed and the Oconee County world has changed since 2019. At the same time, Mr. Adams is correct. We've still got other things that we need to be dealing with as a planning commission, that this is not necessarily our sole focus for the rest of the year. But it is something we want the community at large to start engaging in. If there's not any other business we need to deal with, do I hear a motion to adjourn? All those in